immediately after the Academy Award, the television happened to you, and you went through so many series, LA Law and Hooperman, and so on and so forth. Uh, why did you switch immediately from cinema to television? Although there is not much of a difference, the medium is more or less the same. The language may be different, but why did you went towards television?
Well, I had a young family and I needed to support my family. And also, I wanted to be involved with the writing of the screenplays that I was going to direct. And so I started working with a very talented screenwriter, Finn Taylor, and we collaborated for 10 years. And while we did that collaboration, we created two feature films, Pontiac Moon and Dream with the Fishes. Both of them, were produced and we got them made. I think I was still learning my craft, and television was a great way to continue in that process. The Wonder Years was a great show, and we shot it often with two cameras, which I still do a lot today. And I was known as someone who could direct young performers, teenagers and kids. So that show had a lot of young performers. It was a bit of a pressure cooker because when you have very strict rules about how long you can use young performers, you shoot them first in the scene. And so we would
Mhm.
leave the lights all set up on the Wonder Years, and then we would shoot out all the children, and then come back and switch the lights back on and shoot out all the adults. So we had very long days on that show, 14, 16-hour days, generally speaking. But we had limited rehearsal also in television as a director.
Hmm. When you just
Meeting,
spoke about two camera
and always
setup.
I
Hmm. You just spoke about a two camera setup. Which year was
yeah.
it where you were using two camera setup?
Well, so this was in '87, I think. One of my favorite directors was and still is Kurosawa, and Kurosawa
Hmm.
used three cameras.
Hmm.
I generally don't use three cameras, but sometimes I do use two, especially if they're young performers. But now with if you're shooting digitally with the red, you can blow up quite a bit. So sometimes you don't need two cameras because you can go from a sort of a shot like the shot
Hmm.
that's filming me now to a close up of me with the same camera. You can blow it up 33%. With the red, it's so much digital information.
I also began as a television producer, and I'm very comfortable with multi-camera setups.
Mhm.
And but using these two or three camera setup for a film, how does it help you? I mean, you work on different image sizes, different angles. Is it easier to edit later on, or you get variety of angles in the same space, same space and time? Why do we use two cameras for a film?
Well, usually, you can use multiple cameras. Often, sometimes in a chase scene, something like this,
Mhm.
um, where it's in a very expensive setup and cars are
Yeah,
being destroyed or something.
of
So
course.
you want to capture it on
Mm,
multiple
mm,
cameras, not just
mm,
because one of the cameras might go down, but you want to get a bunch
mm.
of different angles that you can cut
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
What I do generally with young performers is I usually have the cameras side by side, so they're very much on the same axis. They're pointing in the same direction right next to each other often. And so I can go from a two shot to a close up and have, the integrity of the performance stay the same. Young people often don't have the discipline to repeat a performance over
Yeah.
maybe 8 times if you're lucky, and it's usually
Yeah.
within the first 3 or 4 takes that you get the
And
best.
each time it keeps going down.
Yeah, it can go down energy-wise,
Yeah.
but not so with adults. Sometimes
Mm.
everyone is different, and I would say for directors, a very important thing to do is to act, to actually put themselves in the fire, uh, yeah, of being in front of the camera, because a huge part of the job of a director is to bring out the essence of the performer and to make them feel comfortable and unafraid, trusting, and give them the ability to play fully.
So are you saying the director has to be a good actor also, or he needs to understand acting?
More, he has to understand the choices an actor makes and
Mhm.
the challenge of an actor, because the actors are kind of finding an intimate place often within themselves where they're revealing something from their heart, or they're revealing it a little bit but hiding it a little bit. There's all these
Mhm.
subtleties in um, Clint Eastwood, for instance.
Mhm.
No shouting on his set; it's all whispers. And he has the same team over and over and over. Um, and that is because he doesn't want to distract his amazing actors from being focused on their performance.
So he wants a similar environment all around him, so that he feels cozy and he's able to deliver. Is it
And
right?
and yeah, and he protects his actors by keeping things very calm, very grounded, very centered. I do that to some extent, but I also use music. I
Mhm.
was mentored by Peter Weir. I got to
Mhm.
watch him shoot Dead Poet Society, and Peter uses music to move quickly and to keep them,
Mhm.
entertained and happy while they're working hard. But he also uses music with his actors. He collaborates with them, and they pick specific music to set a tone. Um,
Mhm.
Emotionally before they play a scene sometimes. And sometimes, often, Peter knew exactly the kind of music he was going to use for a scene. For instance, he shot a scene in Dead Poet Society where the young men are playing soccer. And
Mhm.
first he shot a few shots of them just dribbling the ball around the field, and he was filming their feet, and then he went into slightly slow motion, into 30 frames a second, which is normally in the US we shoot 24 frames, in Europe it's 25 frames. So 30 is slightly slow motion, but not slow enough that you understand it's really slow motion. And
Mhm.
often Peter would lower the camera a tiny bit, like the way the camera is looking up at me now. Instead of shooting like this, he would shoot like this, which is a more heroic angle.
Mhm.
And he would go to 30 frames. And so then he started pumping Ode to Joy, this beautiful classical piece of music, which is very joyous. And
Mhm.
his young men couldn't even play soccer anymore because they were transported by the music. But instead of running around dribbling, they were like looking at each other and laughing and flying. They were gliding like eagles suddenly, and that was all due to the music. And then, completely improvisationally, they picked up Robin Williams and put him on their shoulders and carried him uh, off the field, and
Mhm.
Peter yelled, "Cut! Come back! Do that again, but run directly at the sun, at the setting sun. Quickly! Come on,
Mhm.
hurry up, everyone! First positions!" And they all did it again, and they carried him right towards the setting sun, and that became the poster of the film. And it was this, I mean, that's what you look for, these magic moments um, where something happens that nobody expected.
Yeah.
The actors are surprising each other. That I would say that's one of the biggest secrets of a director, is to talk to your actors separately, so that when they come together, even though they know the lines of each other and what the other one's going to say, they don't know the subtext. They don't know
Mhm.
what's underneath the lines, and that's what they're always reacting to. In America, we had a brilliant acting teacher named Meisner, and
Mhm.
he taught actors to really listen to the subtext and react to it instinctively, immediately. And some of our best actors are trained in the Meisner technique, um, and that's all about reading the other actor, not
Mhm.
listening to what they're saying, but feeling what they're saying
So
underneath
it's
the words.
reacting, not really acting.
Yeah, Well, it is acting. It's like what we do as
Mm.
human beings with each other. We have such an influence when we're
Yeah.
communicating with each other. We have such an effect on each other. Very subtle, but also very powerful.